All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. All right, House of Lords, Saints and Sinners came out last year. If you like Rainbow with Joe Lynn Turner, or Deep Purple with Joe Lynn Turner, or a Michael Schenker group, or I don't know, Jeff Freya would be another good band that is in the House of Lords category. Saints and Sinners came out last year, and it's really great from start to finish. Of course, probably most famous for their version of Can't Find My Way Home, back from the late 80s, that Blind Faith classic that was redone. Hard rock and heavy metal groups were always, bringing back an older, folkier sounding song and turning it into a harder edged version of that. And House of Lords is just a cool franchise. So check it out, courtesy of Frontiers Music. Also, don't forget to check out Modern Retro Radio, modernretrofm.com, where they do play new material by classic artists. Yeah, they're not afraid to do that. They have the courage. So again, modernretrofm.com. In the news, Neil Schon has a new narrative about why Steve Perry decided to not perform at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It contradicts everything I've heard about Perry and the Hall of Fame, how he wasn't even going to attend the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at one point. And I believe someone in his inner circle coaxed him, cajoled, whatever the word you're looking for here. And Perry did go and, made this great speech at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he did compliment Arnel Pineda, although it's about a 3/4 compliment, where he said that, Arnel sings his heart out every night, which, again, I could go and sing my heart out every night. Nobody would want to hear me sing, for any band for that matter. But this is what Neil Schon says. He did this interview with Rolling Stone, and he says it was just too emotional, just a hair too emotional. He was tearing up. I was definitely tearing up. I had tears running down my eyes, says Schon, who was too emotional to read the full version of the speech he had prepared. Knowing everything else and how he was feeling, he was very emotional too. He's talking about Steve Perry. It's understandable to me that he wouldn't want to sing. It was just highly emotional. Now, from everybody I've talked to on this, Perry had no intention of singing. If Neil Schon had said something like, yeah, we rehearsed. Why wouldn't you rehearse with Steve? Steve would show up early. Steve wouldn't want to go on stage and screw it up. So I'm sure they would do a rehearsal and they would get the sound right. They would perform in the key that was comfortable for Steve Perry. And they'd run through the songs to make sure that Steve could do this. So yeah, why would Steve Perry just show up? Now you'd say, well, he did show up for the Eels, right? And that was probably just very, shooting from the hip without any preparation. I don't know. This is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it's before a very expectant audience. The audience is expecting greatness from Journey. By the way, that night, Arnel really struggled for whatever reason. And my guess is pressure. A lot of pressure on Arnel that night to pull it off. They did 3 songs. And I'm thinking, I'm performing for Steve Perry. Now Steve Perry is here. Now this audience is here. And Steve is right there. And so if I'm Arnel, that's a really difficult position to be in. But this is what the article says. Of all of the scenarios presented, this one makes the most sense. A perfectionist like Steve wouldn't dare to try to struggle through tears for the duration of his on stage time. Certainly not on a night when everyone watching would be expecting shades of the explosive Journey performances they remember. Yeah, and that's the issue. I wouldn't expect that. Of course, fans who have been just aching to hear Perry belt out Don't Stop Believin' one last time while weaving in and out of Neil's orbit wouldn't have cared one way or another, which is true. But as we've learned from watching his interactions with Journey over the years, all good things happen when the time is right, even if it takes a few decades. Now, are they implying at the end of this that a Steve Perry Journey reunion could still be a possibility? Come on, man. No, just no. I mean, it should have happened how many years ago? 20? How many years ago should it have happened? When Jerry lost his voice, did anyone reach out to Steve and say, hey, you want to try this again? I think I would have, but I'm sure Steve would have said, go pound sand. Things weren't going well at that time between Journey and Steve Perry. And Steve Perry had made the deal of a lifetime. Residual income, way better than Amway. He didn't even have to build a pyramid of people. It was just, all right, you guys work on my behalf. I signed the contract. You guys keep going out there. And by the way, I approve of everything that you do. If I don't approve, then you can't do it. So, of course, Perry, I'm sure for financial reasons, even if he thought that certain people being in the band weren't up to the task of being in the band, he probably just, I'll sign off on it. They're making money. They're selling out fairly big arenas. That Utah Provo thing was just huge. A lot of people didn't talk about that. The so-called rock media didn't even really mention it. That was a big deal. So this notion that Steve didn't sing because he was crying and he was emotional, yeah, I'm not buying that. Steve Perry is a perfectionist, and my guess is if he were to perform with Journey at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, just like he called the shots on Trial by Fire, just like he called the shots on Raised on Radio, agreeing to do certain things, you do it my way or we don't do this at all. And I believe that still holds true now. If you look at the history of all of this, there's no way that Steve Perry would just arbitrarily, let me just sing. Give me a microphone. Let's try this and see what I can do. No, everything ahead of time would have to be perfect before Steve Perry would even consider doing this. So it's a new narrative. I'm sorry, guys. This is a new narrative. Sorry, Neil. It's good because it keeps Journey in the news and people can speculate. And then at the end, again, we hear this last paragraph here where it says, but as we've learned from watching his interactions with Journey over the years, all good things happen when the time is right, even if it takes a few decades. What is that? Leaving the door open for Perry to return. 74, right? Isn't Steve Perry 74 years old? I'm sorry, folks. Where's the new stuff from Steve Perry? He supposedly has new material that he's going to release. I'd love to hear it. This would be a great time to do it. Journey is in a lull. So if Steve decided to put something out there, he would get a lot of traction with that. And it helps Journey as well, because then people will say, oh, there's Steve again. So where's Journey? And then if people like the material, they'll say, see, Steve should be in Journey right now. Folks, with all these bands retiring, time has run out. Time has really run out. And any reunion, if there was to be one, would not meet anyone's expectations. It just wouldn't. I'm sorry to say that. Now, there are plenty of people, like they're showing up to see Lou Gramm and they've got their lawn chairs and they're out there watching Lou Gramm perform. There are people under any circumstance whatsoever, they would go see Steve Perry. Because at this point, it's almost like people watching. It's like, I want to see him interact with Journey. I want to see him back on stage with Journey. So he could go up there, walk around, and just mime a bunch of songs, and I would be very happy to see that. And that's where we're at with pretty much everything right now. But the Perry reunion thing, I mean, if it didn't happen at the Hall of Fame, and it didn't happen after Traces came out, it was never going to happen. And, you know, people who are in the business of just speculating and keeping this alive, and, you know, Steve Perry got a haircut today, and Steve Perry went and had his, you know, clothes dry cleaned or something. This is a cottage industry following Steve Perry, even at this stage in his life. And it just shows how little there is to talk about, but it also shows how much people miss Steve Perry and Journey, and that's never going to change. So, yeah, that's my video on the topic. I don't think Steve was ever going to perform at the Hall of Fame, and it wasn't because he was crying or emotional. I don't buy that. Anyway, House of Lords, Saints and Sinners, good music, came out last year. Whitesnake and Jeffria and Deep Purple, Jolene Turner, Rainbow, all that stuff, all rolled into one fantastic album by House of Lords. Also, again, don't forget about Modern Retro Radio. And folks, please watch the videos if you can. I know not every topic. People don't like me talking about Ukraine. And it's weird, but they just don't like me talking about it. So maybe I don't talk about Ukraine, but people really need to know the truth about Ukraine. So I might have to do a standalone video about Ukraine. And I'll relate it to Pink Floyd's amazing song, Hey, Hey, Rise Up, which is one of their greatest songs ever. Not. All right, people. Thanks for watching. God bless. See you soon.